Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 13.6 and hopefully 13.7. Riot have decided to kind of tone down the jungle changes going forward because the last couple of patches have been quite intense for us. A lot of meta shifts and a lot of changes, and the dragons have had some of their tail tips cut off, unnecessarily I think, but hey, whether we agree or not, it happened and we have to adjust to maximize our climb. As always, we will go over the best junglers for this particular meta to showcase what you need to carry, win, and climb at every level of play. But with all of these champions, a lot of people still struggle to build correctly, like those of you who still rush Kempang Chainsword. And so, to streamline the builds process and remove the guesswork, head to Mobalytics' completely revamped Builds 2.0 feature. Not only is it significantly faster and more accurate, it also calculates the data way quicker as we go from patch to patch. And with more unique options presented, it gives you 4 real build options for your champions. This includes off-meta varieties for those who want to really figure out a playstyle that suits them, and along with these better build calculations means that the items are not just thrown together by win rate data like other sites. They're actually full builds that people play and actually end and win games on. Along with new builds from other regions so you can actually discover what the Korean one-tricks are building. Should you build Void Staff? Should you build Death Cap? Frozen Heart, Randuin's? The better situational advice for most items will allow you to make better decisions. Also available in the app, of course, and will auto-import into your game should you want to have things streamlined for you. Click the link in the description below to itemize like a savant with Mobalytics. Right, and on the S tier page, we still have Joven. That's right, they decided to give him an AD ratio that didn't exist on the W. Everyone's saying, but he's doing so much damage. He always did that damage. He will still continue to do the damage. Now though, the damage he builds also makes him more resilient and resistant to your charms of death. As such, the guy can EQ crater anybody in the game and of course survive a little bit with a huge ass shield from the AD ratio. Sure, they've nerfed it a little bit again because it was too strong, but the champion as a whole, you remove the spam ganking meta, the guy can still full clear absolutely fine. He has all the clears available to him. Now you got a guy that does map control with damage, with gank control, who can actually farm, take objectives, win team fights. He can do everything. He may not be the master of any one particular thing, but he's damn good at everything else. An all-round jungler for an all-round meta to destroy you all round. And then we have Wukong, who goes through this up and down phase. He's really like those platinum junglers who struggle to go up and down, and finally get to diamond. Of course, if you want to get to diamond, then my platinum course releasing this weekend will help you accomplish that. But he kind of ends up atop the meta, some sort of nerf or systemic change to the jungle happens, and then he's not in the meta, and everyone's like, wow, he sucks now. Guess what? You can still build Tiamat, you can still not build Tiamat, you have that choice. You can still rush Warhammers, you can still rush Sheen for more PvP stonks. You have options. The point is, you can't just go spam ganking like we were in the previous meta. A lot of Wukong players are still playing like it's 13.3. No, my friends, it's 13.6. You have to shift your approach. But what he does provide is the same kind of thing as Joven. The ability to lock down control fights, win skirmishes, gank hard, but still farm at a reasonable pace. He can also invade counter jungle and beat a lot of junglers 1v1. He's got deception, he's got mobility, the champion is just all-round good. This is the meta of all-rounders. And no, that's not a reference to Udyr's polygons, but at the same time, why are people stopping playing this champion? The AD build has been gone for a while. Yeah, they nerfed Demonics and Braze. Yeah, they nerfed to slow when they are a little bit. These things haven't really done much. Sure, it adds up together, and then you say, right, spam ganking meta, Udyr's good, but we're now in a more balanced meta, and he's not as good? That doesn't make any sense. Of course, there's more experience and gold in the jungle now, therefore, it's good for Udyr. Sure, any jungler who had dragon control and thrived on dragon taking will feel those nerfs a little bit more. I mean, that will be the way it is, and sometimes dragon nerfs affect the meta in very subtle ways. You'd have to go deep into the data to look for those correlations. Only Riot has the data, unfortunately for us. But the guy still full sequences faster than most. The guy still takes Herald. The guy still wins fight. The guy still builds the same items and still one-shots you while being unholy tanky. Udyr is Udyr. He will always be as such. Therefore, he will always be a good pick for junglers. Next up, we have Evelynn. Now, she truly is becoming the absolute queen of the jungle in more ways than one. The champion is thriving at all levels of play from gold and above. I don't recommend it for a low elo because of positioning and assassin gameplay. There's just a disconnect between positioning and teamfighting that isn't really conducive to climbing in that arena. But for everybody else, she's providing this ability to sequence, still thrive on the ganking aspect of it, obviously because of the camouflage, and have an ult that really just shreds everybody. Sure, she isn't very good at taking turrets like other champions on this list, but why do you need to when you can just kill people between them and your team can take them for you? It feels like it's much easier now just based upon the jungle meta to bring her late game forward a couple minutes, and that means her weaker early can kind of just snowball out of control very quickly. She starts one-shotting people very quickly, and then she's very difficult to contain. Next up, we have Kayn, and of course his win rate isn't too spicy, but that's largely to do with the fact that Kayn's a dynamic champion with 2 different forms, middle ground hybrid forms, whatever abomination build you want to go. But as soon as you put farm back into the jungle in terms of golden experience, as soon as you remove the spam ganking, as soon as you enter a more balanced meta, Kayn says, hey, you know what? I can gank around my sequencing. I can fight pretty well early actually. And if you need me to go Rast against the Jarvans and the Wukongs, I will do that. If you need me to just focus on Blue Cane and blowing up Aziri, I can do that as well. You have choices, you have options, you have thrivings, you are Kane, you can win. Next up we have Hecarim, although this just looks like an even worse version of Hecarim, to be honest with you. I'm not sure what happened to his face, and I know it was a skeleton before, but it looks like the skeleton lost weight as well. Actually, it's freaking me out. I'm gonna stop looking at it and just look at the recording. What's happening is that Hecarim has an absolute copious amount of builds that you can go. Most Hecarims build it incorrectly, or when they do decide to go Duskblade and Eclipse, they just don't fight properly. So the standardized build here for accessibility at this stage is going the Spear of Shoujin first, you have your Mana Moon, and then you can go Eclipse. Sure, you can go Radiant Virtue, but it's solo queue, go Eclipse. Learn though that that item is going to give you the damage, the armor penetration, how nice, percentage max HP damage, a shield, but it's not going to sustain you like a Chem Tank. It's not going to sustain you like a Radiant Virtue. You can't run in 1v5 and expect to thrive and survive. You will get blown up. Thus, you need to pick your access points significantly better and be a little bit more patient for that perfect ultimate. Most Hecarims that do this end up thriving and actually winning quite easily. The champion is good, sequencing, ganking, playing around ultimate, taking objectives, and controlling teamfights. Just put on some relaxing meditation music and go vibe on the horse. Don't overthink it. He's an easy champion. It's not about thinking. Next up, we have Gragas, who ironically, despite how much he drinks, is a little bit more about thinking. Now, I'm really in this place where it's like, okay, look, the champion isn't that difficult to play. However, a good Gragas is absolutely beautiful to watch because I'll use every animation cancel in like 11 seconds and you're like, woof, I can't do that. And that's the thing, right? The execution of the champion needs to be done properly. Your animation cancels need to be known. You need to understand the passive, the W. You need to understand the disengage, the engage, the angles, the body slam over walls, which walls you can do it, the flash body slam combos, obviously the Q trigger. There's a lot more going on in his simple kit than meets the eye, and that's what makes him, in my eyes, difficult for someone just to pick up and play. And that's usually the metric I use for difficulty in these videos. That being said, the champion is absolutely, utterly dominating. I've made a hidden OP Gragas video a few months ago, and now his play rate keeps going up and up and up, and his win rate keeps going up and up and up, although actually it's still pretty good. So it stays the same, but it's up, you know what I mean? Night Harvester, baby, super strong. This guy has sustain, CC, and damage. What more do you want, especially when your team get caught out and you can just chuck a barrel and say, look, I'm disengaging this fight now. That's it, everyone back to base. And Vi says no because he wants to ult engage and die. Although if you're a good Vi, you're noticing that, hey, this champion has a lot of different versatility that I can build. However, I want to focus on the Black Cleaver Rush, thank you very much. Sure, there are other alternatives we could go, and I've spoken about this a lot in other coaching videos saying, look, I get it, but Vi has always been one of those champions that thrives on a bit of itemization versatility. So it's great to see someone say, look, I love the Radiant Virtue build, and then someone else says, look, I like rushing Serrated Dirk and Ghostblade, snowballing the hell out of the first 8 minutes, because that's the most important phase for junglers to set the foundation for the victory. And then, of course, I can go Divine Sundra, I can go other itemization, Black Cleaver later on. Different strokes for different folks, but the one thing we all agree on is Vi is mighty strong. Moving on to the A tier page, which is technically still an S page, right? This is the best junglers. I just kind of subdivide the best junglers into S and A. Rengar, my friends, counters a lot of stuff on the meta, super good overall. Love seeing it on a one-trick's hands. However, if you're not a one-trick, go put in 100 games, please. Go watch Pussy Poo, learn how to master this champion. Guys, a challenger, Rengar Savant. Learn the ways of the cat, understand the full level of mechanics, understand all of the combos, and dedicate yourself to it because it is one of the most rewarding, difficult champions in the game. But damn, can you 1v9? Fiddlesticks, on the other hand, is not quite as intensive. It's a little bit weird with the clears and kind of playing like this weird stick figure mage thing that's so unique. There's not a lot of transferable skills. I mean, there are definitely similarities between him and, say, other mages, but he is unique in his own right, which is what takes people a little bit longer to get used to. But at the end of the day, farm, ult, farm, ult, farm, ult, win. Echo isn't quite as farm and ulty, definitely a hybrid champion, super high damage, super high scaling, super high assassination potential. Everything I've said about Echo still applies. Nothing extra to add other than, listen, this champion is performing very well. Decent pick rate, good win rate, nice snowball component, matches up decently well in a lot of cases. There's nothing stopping an Echo main from climbing very easily. Kindred's been OP and dominating solo queue for such a long time, it's difficult to remember not having them on the list, or at least very, very strong in high elo. The Demonic's Embrace, high CC, tank sort of meta, spam ganking meta we just had didn't really help because Kindred loves to thrive on shutting down enemy junglers, which is very difficult to do with the enemy junglers are drooling in a bush somewhere, not doing anything jungly, which means you can't really shut them down when they're always in a lane and they have copious amounts of CC. That shift, however, has benefited us greatly, and now Kindred mains are back to being as dominating, as oppressive as they always have been. And as I wish Bel'Veth mains would be. Guys, stop full clearing unless it's really something you have to do given lane states. Look for the 3-cam invades. Look to do something interesting. Look to snowball and be aggressive. You are like Master Yi. You want 9,000 gold by 14 minutes. You want to only take 80% plays. You want to get true form. I coach a lot of Balvest 1v1, especially from the coaching video a few weeks ago where we got this guy D2. You have to think about aggressive jungling and shift your mindset entirely. When you do that and you understand that you are the hunter, the macro god, the 1v9, the split pusher, you have to be selfish. You are the hyper carry. When you embody this jungler is almost unbeatable in the right hand. The interesting one here is Nocturne, and of course, what Nocturne thrives on is playing around level 6 and sequencing camps, so we give him some more gold so he can snowball faster. But we also remove the 20% damage reduction to the enemy jungle camps, and suddenly he is counter jungling us, all while still 1v1ing us. Interesting champion, strong champion, does need a rework physically, but in terms of his kit, the guy can still be oppressive. A bit of a stat check, but well-executed Nocturnes with good map control, good split push, good ultimate usage, can really dominate games quite easily. Are you one of them? Next up we have Lee Sin and of course Virkayu, these two clowns with high play rates, lower win rates, but still executed beautifully by those who main them. Lee Sin's still more of a high elo pick, but the gold players can execute him. Virkayu, same thing. Most of the issue lies with Lee Sin in terms of mechanics and decisions of jungle pathings. And for Virkayu, it lies very heavily in itemization and knowing what to do when. Like the Hecarim, except with much less forgiveness. So if you go Divine Sundra when you shouldn't, you are not going to do damage and you will be useless. And if you go Kraken Slayer or you go the Shield Bow Essence Reaver IE build and you teamfight and engage incorrectly like you have Divine Sundra, what's going to happen? You're gonna get blown up. So you have to understand your angles of approach, your snowballing component, and what each itemization facet actually does. And now we jump onto the low elo page, and Yarvin the Fourth is still above Ramus, who is above Amumu. Yeah, this page is interestingly quite similar to the general meta at this point. When low elo and high elo represent the average meta, which is of course the first two pages, then you know that those champions are really strong across all levels of play. However, in this particular case, we only have 3 champions crossover because I removed the Zac, as while he is still strong, the champion is still very good overall in solo queue. He just doesn't have that same best jungler carry potential since the nerfs came through on Demonic's Embrace clear speeds. However, if you understand simple frameworks in the silver jungle like I talk about in my courses, then obviously Zac is easy. Just copy the framework, gank the lanes, win the teamfights, end the game. You'll do the most damage, you'll take the most damage, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. Finally, the high elo page. The only one here that we really need to talk about is the Nidalee, because the Nidalee is the only one we haven't spoken about so far. Guess what? If you have hands and you understand jungle, she's good. And guess what? If you play Nidalee below Master Tier and you can't get to Master Tier Plus, then you're probably not as good at either jungle or Nidalee. You have to make the choice. I don't say that as flame. I say that as a brutal assessment. The champion is just that good in the right hands. That being said, these are the ones that have the highest presence in high elo at the moment. They have the highest pick rate, the highest win rate. They have a lot of ban raids. These are the champions that I see quite a lot in the replays when I go scouting and have a look to see what people are actually doing. We of course have the Viegos, we have the Greys, we have the Balvest, we have the Udyrs, all being used. There's a lot of high elo champions that are viable. These ones just have the highest presence. And high elo, it's very difficult to discern, hey, this is better than this, because when you have a wide open meta, a lot of it comes down to skill issue, pathing issue, and maybe just jungle knowledge in general, rather than the champion being necessarily weak. Either way, these are the champions. If you are Master Plus and you want the best opportunity to win your games, provided you can pilot the champion and itemize correctly, they will do the job for you. And with that, these are the best junglers for 13.6 and hopefully 13.7, as I really hope don't tinker too much in the next couple of patches. And if you truly want to know how to command the jungle in every single meta with any champion, the 10 jungling commandments updated for the Jungle Diff Edition 2023, they will make you righteous.